Hello friends, myself Abhishek YS. Currently I am pursuing my studies in Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering in 4th sem of CSE department. Now I am here to explain about what is Linux kernel. Let us see what all the concepts we are going to cover in this concept, that is introduction to Linux kernel and what is the importance of it and role of the kernel in the operating system and kernel development process and its steps involved, advantages and disadvantages of Linux kernel, and finally what we have read in from beginning, let us conclude at the last. Now let us know what is Linux kernel. The Linux kernel is a free source monolithic modular Unix like operating system kernel. It is the main content of the Linux operating system and it is the core interface between the computer's hardware and its processor. The kernel is a computer program at the core of an operating system. It means it is the interface between computer hardware and its processor. Now let us know the importance of the Linux kernel. The Linux kernel manages the operating system resources, making sure that there is enough memory available for the application to run, optimizing processor usage, and avoiding the system deadlocks caused by completing application demands. The stability of the Linux kernel has made it is a key building block of many cloud computing infrastructures. Now let us see the kernel development process. It involves the several steps like development community, source code management, submit code to the kernel, and code style and programming language, GNU toolchain, and compiler compatibility, kernel debugging, development module, and mainline Linux, the Linux like kernel. Now let us see how to build the Linux kernel. Building the Linux kernel involves several steps, like it can be a complex process depending on the specifying configuration and requirements. It means it depends on the what type of software we have to build using this Linux kernel. Here's the general outline of the steps to build the Linux kernel. That's first step is get the source code. You need to obtain the source code of the Linux kernel. Second is install the required dependencies. That's before proceeding with the build, make sure you have the necessary development tools and libraries. Next is configure the kernel. The next step is to configure the kernel according to your system requirements. That is, you can use one of the following methods, that is graphical configuration. It is the most recommended configuration in all the building software using Linux kernel. Next is text-based configuration and automated configuration. The next step comes is compile the kernel. After the configuration is complete, it's time to build the kernel. Use the make command to compile the kernel. Next is install the kernel modules. Once the kernel is completed, you can install the module using sudo make modules install. Next is install the new kernel. After modules are installed, you need to copy the kernel image to the boot directory and update the bootloader configuration to include the new kernel. Next is rebooting our device. Once everything is set up, you need to restart your device to install the new kernel which you have created. Let's see the future of the Linux kernel. Low-level scheduling processors, inter-process communication and process synchronization, context switching, manipulation of the process and control blocks, interrupt handling, process creation and destruction, process suspension and resumption. These are the features of the Linux kernel. Let us see advantages and disadvantages of the Linux kernel. That is, advantages: it's being open source, stability and reliability. It means it can run all types of codes, and security purpose. It is the most. It will give a very strong security. Next, customizability and cost effectiveness. Let us see what are the disadvantages. Is a limited software availability, limited hardware support, a step learning curve, lack of commercial support, compatibility issues. Let us explore some real-time examples of Linux kernel, that is open source robotics. The various robotic platform and a framework such as ROS, that is robot operating system, rely on the Linux for their real-time capabilities. While ROS, that is robot operating system, itself is not a real-time system. It leverages the real-time extensions mentioned earlier to the achieve real-time performance in robotic control applications. Next is networking and telecommunications. Some network devices and telecommunication equipments rely on real-time capabilities provided to the Linux kernel to ensure low latency and high throughput in their operations. Linux-based systems are used in various networking applications, includes router, switches, and software-defined networks, that is SDN solutions. Let us see the conclusion. In conclusion, Linux stands a powerful, reliable, and cost-effective operating system that offers a unmatched customization and security. Its open source code nature, combined with a dedicated global community, ensures continuous improvements and innovations. Whether it's running on servers, power embedded system, or serving as a desktop environment, Linux continues to redefine the boundaries of the modern computing and remains a compelling choice for individuals and organizations alike. Embrace Linux and you will unlock a world of possibilities. Thank you.